Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to New Brunswick. So my name's Jeff Hoyt. I'm the Assistant Deputy Minister of our Department of Energy and Mineral Development in the Government of Brunswick. And today I really want to be here to talk to you about our energy strategy, powering our economy and the world with clean energy, and also about our recently released hydrogen roadmap. So I want to share with you all the fantastic things that are going on in New Brunswick, talk to you about how we have clearly planted our flag as a clean energy leader and in the hydrogen space, and really give you an idea and a sense of how committed we are to this space as New Brunswick. So first, I know there's New Brunswickers in the crowd, but who here is aware of the east coast of Canada and knows where New Brunswick is? And you can't be Canadian, okay? Canadians, hands down, okay? All right, so let's take a minute here and just sort of situate ourselves. So we're on the east coast of Canada. We're one of 4 Atlantic provinces. We're about a 12-hour drive north of New York. We have a population of about 850,000, and our land mass is about 70,000 square kilometers. So I think if my math is correct, if we kind of looked at Netherlands, we've got about twice the land mass of Netherlands and about a 20th of the people. So we're a pretty small but mighty jurisdiction. So I really want to talk to you first about our energy strategy. So in December of last year, we released our energy strategy, which is a 12-year roadmap for New Brunswick and how we're going to make our investments and transition into that clean energy space. So it lays out a clear picture of the energy mix that we have now, as well as where we're going to be in 2035. And it outlines new roles for things like hydrogen that are going to play a significant part of our future and our economic development within the province. So I want to talk, before I sort of jump into the energy strategy and talk to you about what we've committed to in the future, I want to just ground ourselves in sort of what New Brunswick looks like now from an energy perspective. So we are one of Canada's most diverse energy mixes. We are geographically situated amidst high energy markets, Quebec, Canada to the north of us, Maine, United States to the west of us. We are a very robust grid with really strong interconnections into those neighboring jurisdictions, which allows us to be very nimble and effective as we look at moving clean energy around the region in the future. So our grid right now, before we even make the commitment to our cleaner future, we're 80% non-emitting, and we're between 40 to 50% renewable, depending on the year. Renewable production goes up and down yearly. So that renewable is hydro, wind, and solar. And our base load that puts us into that clean category is we're also one of 2 jurisdictions in Canada that has nuclear generation, and we have a CANDU reactor in Point Lepreau, New Brunswick. So our supply mix consists of hydro, of wind, of solar, of nuclear, of gas. We have a coal plant in the northern part of the province. Those of you that were here this morning and heard the fantastic presentation from our New Brunswick partners at the Port of Baldoon and Cross River Ventures sort of would know that we have a coal plant in the northern part of the province, but we're making a commitment by 2030 to move that off of coal into biomass production. And that's a big transition for us, which will take our second largest emitter in the province and make it clean. So, and we also have, I think as people are aware in Canada, we have a commitment to be net zero in our electricity generation by 2035. So in addition to that sort of electricity mix, we also have a very robust and modern natural gas system that we're connected directly into the United States. We have an LNG receiving and regasification terminal in the southern part of the province. We have 2 deep water ports, and again, if you were here this morning, you would have heard the presentation about Baldoon, and I'm going to touch on our deep water ports here a little bit later. And we're also uniquely in Canada, we're home to the largest oil refinery in the country, which is situated in St. John, New Brunswick. And that oil refinery right now produces about 200 tons of gray hydrogen, but with the plans to decarbonize that we're seeing in terms of the fuel sector, they are investing in an electrolyzer and will be looking at producing cleaner fuels and cleaner hydrogen in the future. So now on to what it is that we've committed to in the future in terms of our energy strategy. So we have, and these are some of the highlights from it. As I said, we are a nuclear jurisdiction now. We have an operating CANDU reactor in Point-Lepreau, New Brunswick, but we've committed to the development of 600 megawatts of new clean SMR technology that will be integrated into that existing generation station by 2035, the first of which will hopefully come online in 2030. From a renewables perspective, we are committing to 1,400 megawatts of new wind, 200 megawatts of grid scale power, and 300 megawatts of behind the meter. Now, that may not seem like a lot to some of the larger jurisdictions, but from a New Brunswick perspective, this is a significant increase in our base load renewables that will be used to help us support and encourage development of sectors like hydrogen and other green technologies. So new energy like hydrogen, renewable natural gas, biofuels, will have an increased role in that. And we clearly see our existing sort of gas sort of in a transition role, both locally as well as globally. We've also made some commitments and are in discussions right now to increase our transmission upgrades with ourselves and our neighbors to the east of us in Nova Scotia, which will allow energy stability and security and reliability across the region. So this map here, and it might be a little bit hard to see, but what I want to kind of articulate this is that the strategy includes a clear roadmap. I would encourage you to go on at the end of this as a link to the energy strategy. But what we are trying to do is really plant our flag to say these are the commitments we're going to make, and this is how we're going to get here. These are when we see things coming offline in terms of removing emitting generation, as well as the new renewables coming online. That provides certainty to us from a government perspective in terms of the regulatory side. It also provides certainty to investment. So I think that's a very key thing that we wanted to point out within the strategy. So and when I get into the next pieces here on hydrogen, you can clearly see that we have hydrogen looking at from an export perspective as early as 2028, but definitely in line by 2035. And so that really brings me to the next piece of my presentation here, where I want to talk about the hydrogen roadmap. So one of the strong commitments that we had in our energy strategy was to actually release a hydrogen roadmap that was going to outline how it was that the province was going to incubate, support, develop, and nurture the hydrogen sector within the province. So we have our location, our vast natural resources, our leading work in SMRs, really position us to be a clean hydrogen leader and innovator. We really, from a provincial perspective, and that's small province like New Brunswick in Canada, traveling all the way to Rotterdam with I would say a sizable delegation from Atlantic Canada as well as Canada here. We're firmly planting our flag that we are in this space. We are open for business, and we want to have you and others come talk to us about the opportunities that exist in New Brunswick with our clean energy future. So the roadmap is going to serve as a foundation for developing a viable and sustainable hydrogen industry, both from supplying a domestic market as well as an export market. It lays out a 5-year plan. It has 13 actions in it that really sort of will help to incubate that and incubate and develop that sector. So a couple things in terms of highlights. If you were here earlier, there was made mention of this, but we made amendments to our Electricity Act. So our Electricity Act is what governs how we regulate electricity in the province, specifically to ensure that we could enable self-supply from large loads like hydrogen. So behind the fence, behind the meter connections, so that previous to that, you would have to have purchased electricity from the utility. You can self-supply now, which is a major, major benefit to the sector, and I think will allow significant growth and a reduction in some of the hurdles that would enable, that we're standing in the way of that large development. We're also making adjustments to our Gas Distribution Act, which is the act that sort of governs our our gas within the gas distribution in the province to allow hydrogen and renewable natural gas to be integrated directly into the pipeline system, which is another real important thing. So, and I mentioned earlier that we have the strong commitments to SMRs, and so SMRs are being used for two things within New Brunswick. We have a strong desire to have them be a source for electricity generation, coupling with our existing nuclear reactor in Point Lepreau. It will also be something that we hope to be able to use in industrial decarbonization and a key factor in supporting the build out of large hydrogen projects like you would have heard about in the Port of Belledune this morning. So I want to touch briefly on this. It sort of builds off of that connection with Belledune. Is that another of the big commitments within the hydrogen roadmap is that we're going to develop 2 hydrogen hubs. And so in the province, we have a hydrogen hub that we're going to develop in the Belledune area. And if you were here and lucky enough to catch the presentation this morning in the Port of Belledune, a great work going on there and some really innovative work that's going on to build a hydrogen export facility in the port. The second one will be in the southern part of the province, near St. John, and so it's, as I said, it's the only operational LNG facility in the province or in the country or in eastern Canada, just to be clear, and it's going to be looking at building off of that existing refinery that we have there that's already producing significant amounts of hydrogen, but with a commitment to decarbonization. So just to touch quickly, if you weren't here for the presentation this morning, the Port of Belledune is a federal port that we work strongly with as a provincial partner, as well as our electric utility. And we're really looking at, and that project is looking very much at how they can become a green industrial energy source and an export and become Canada's gateway to Europe for the supply of hydrogen. And it is a very interesting time in the port. It has a long history of commercial and industrial development that's very well accepted within the region, and a vast amount of land that's going to allow significant development of projects like hydrogen and the associated wind that will come along with that. So the plans are to include over 2 gigawatts of firm power within the multi-phased sort of industrial plan development that has heat to be able to use to support low-cost hydrogen expansion and heat and power for new industrial developments. So with that, I'm going to wrap up and maybe have time for a quick question. But I really my main point in coming here today was to outline, what it is that we're doing within our hydrogen strategy, what it is that we're doing within our clean energy strategy, powering our economy and the world with clean energy, to clearly show that New Brunswick is committed within this space, that we are going to be part of the energy future. We are open to having conversations, and we are very excited about the prospects that we have ahead of us. So thank you for your time.